The other day I was watching some Steven video until a certain part of it caught my interest.
Stylus, you fix the scopes, now give us a reason to use flashlights.
Now, while stylis has probably forgotten flashlights were even a thing, me being a niche micro-celebrity with way too much free time, I say let's at least try and see if flashlights could actually be useful in Phantom Forces. And hey, who knows, if this video reaches the right people, we might see the flashlight go from one of the worst attachments in Phantom Forces to one of the most unique and dare I call it best attachments that this game has to offer. So help boost this video by leaving a like, and while you're at it, you know what to do. But before we can fix something, we have to learn why it's broken, so to start off, let's ask a rhetorical question. What is the main utility of a flashlight? Obviously, it's to light up dark areas. But one major problem that the flashlight faces is that its main and only utility is pretty much made irrelevant by a single setting. This setting controls Phantom Force's shaders, and by turning it off, there's pretty much no map in the game where a flashlight would be necessary, let alone provide any sort of utility. But this lack of usage isn't actually the flashlight's biggest flaw. See, since Roblox is a little bit janky when it comes to player-produced light, for the many Phantom Forces players who use low-end average computers, running flashlights could actually be way more of a handicap than a utility. This is because player-produced lighting from things like flashlight attachments require constant position and angle updates to function properly, which ends up taking way more processing power than you'd initially think, resulting in a surprising drop in FPS in exchange for literally nothing. So not only is the flashlight virtually invalidated by a single setting, but in some cases it's a direct downgrade to use. So how do we make flashlights useful? Easy question, right? We just make every map so dark to the point where you can't see anything and remove the off toggle for the global shadows entirely. But that is game design. In order to make the flashlight useful, instead of balancing the entire game around the flashlight, we'd have to reimagine the flashlight entirely. Remember the question in the beginning of the video? What if the main utility of the flashlight wasn't to light up dark areas, but rather light up your opponent's screen? I say this because it's as clear as day that Phantom Forces will probably not be getting any special grenade types like flashbangs, so might as well make the flashlight a sort of alternative flashbang that's constant but not nearly as powerful or that far ranged. What I mean by this is if you are within an enemy's FOV or they're aimed in on you with reticle sights or scopes, the center of their screen will turn slightly brighter, making it harder for them to properly aim a consistent stream of damage towards you. However, again, as to not make this basically a direct upgrade from stock, this effect only applies within a 30 stud radius, which I will from now on be referring to as AoE or Area of Effect, which if the enemy is aimed in then gets multiplied by the enemy's sight magnification. So for example, if the enemy is using the reflex sight which has a 1.5 magnification and the flashlight's default AoE is 30 studs, that 30 stud AoE is then multiplied by the reflex's 1.5 magnification, which equates to a 45 stud area of effect. Now that we've given the flashlight a utility buff, I actually want to dive a little bit deeper into this theoretical enemy debuffing idea a bit more, as most, if not all attachments, exclusively make your gun stronger, so the flashlight being the only attachment that indirectly makes you stronger by weakening your opponent could maybe secure them a strong niche on certain maps and gun combinations. Now, just like the different lasers and their effects are separated by colors, I think the flashlight should follow the same premise, so let's start off with the basic red flashlight. This one has a default AoE of 35 studs, and its special effect is when an enemy is within the red flashlight's AoE, their radar will start glitching and your teammates will subsequently disappear from the enemy's radar, meaning there is ample opportunity for teammates to sneak up for a revenge kill if you lose the gun battle. The red flashlight is probably best for maps like Warehouse, where people primarily use the radar to shoot enemies through the paper-thin walls. The green flashlight follows similarly in the tracks of the red flashlight, however, instead of glitching the enemy's radar, this one glitches the enemy's ammo UI to display incorrect information. When you are within a green flashlight user's AoE, your ammunition will suddenly decrease by 15 to 65%. The reason I suggest a percentage range instead of a set one is so that the effect is more believable and doesn't get predictable too fast. The green flashlight's AoE is 38 studs, and the ammo decrease applies to both bullet count but also grenade count, meaning if you're using grenades that can only be used once, like the bundle charge, then the UI will incorrectly display 0 instead of 1, giving the enemy the illusion of being out of grenades. Moving on to the blue flashlight, this one has a relatively smaller AoE of 22 studs, and draws inspiration from its laser counterpart in the way that it affects the enemy's camera recoil. Specifically, it increases the enemy's camera recoil by 10%, which would be a good counterplay for AK and battle rifle users, as their setups focus on reducing the very rough camera recoil those guns come with. Once again inspired by its laser counterpart, the yellow flashlight has the smallest AoE of all the flashlights with just 12 studs. However, in exchange it has an extremely strong ability of slowly rotating the enemy's screen entirely. Although to balance this ability out, the speed at which the enemy screen rotates starts out pretty slow, taking a full 2 minutes to rotate 360 degrees. I say start out because like how the laser's AoE is multiplied by the enemy's sight magnification, in this case the rotation speed is also multiplied by the sight magnification, meaning the higher zoom the enemy's reticle sight or scope has, the faster their screen will rotate. The yellow flashlight is mainly used to counterplay snipers on maps like Desert Storm or Mirage, as they often tend to run high 10 times magnification scopes, where the yellow flashlight's rotation effect would make it a lot harder for those snipers to hit their shots. Now, the last one may sound unusual to some, as the flashlight's color is orange, but in case you didn't know, Phantom Forces actually has an orange laser built into the Hera CQR grip. But I'm gonna be honest, I have no idea what the orange laser actually does, let alone if it even has any effect whatsoever. But if you guys want me to make a video on it and figure out once and for all what it does, well, you know what to do. But back to the flashlight. The orange flashlight also has a relative low AoE of 24 studs, however in exchange it has the unique ability of making the enemy's reticle completely disappear. Although again, there's of course counterplay to this. The most simple way to counterplay the orange flashlight is just by using iron sights, but in this case you could also alt-aim or use opposing lasers to be able to properly aim at the orange flashlight user. And with that said, we're not quite done here because there are a few more mechanics and attachments I want to go over with, so let's start with the obvious attachments or weapons with built-in flashlights or lasers. Now, I don't think there's anything more relevant for me to start with than the Maglite. The Maglite is obviously a tad bit larger than the regular flashlight, so because of its sheer size, the Maglite would have the same effect as the regular flashlight, but the AoE range is doubled. The same goes for the Maglite Club Melee, except instead of doubling the AoE, it'd rather be a smaller 50% increase. Another mechanic I think would go hand in hand with the Maglite is being able to unlock each of the different colored flashlight effects through kills. What I mean by this is every 200 kills it unlocks a new colored flashlight effect, meaning you need a grand total of 1,000 kills to max it out. Now, for the sake of quality of life, I think unless you're Spirals, getting 1,000 kills over and over and over again on each of your favorite guns would obviously be frustrating and unfun to do, so to avoid that entirely, I suggest the Maglite be the first attachment whose kills save universally and not solely on one gun, meaning if you want to max it out, you only need to get 1,000 kills with the Maglite once. And lastly, some of these effects are obviously really strong with the Maglite's double AoE, so to make this power fair and prestige, each flashlight effect on the Maglite is not pre-buyable, meaning you have to get the kills required in order to unlock the Maglite's true power. Another mechanic that would make the flashlights truly special is having color coordination bonus effects. This idea is inspired by an old mechanic TF2 used to have, where if you paired certain weapons and cosmetics together into a themed loadout, it would give you a small hidden boost as a reward for doing so. And while this was eventually removed for obvious pay-to-win issues, I think we can build off of the idea, so here's my suggestion. When you pair flashlights and lasers with the same color, you'll receive a bonus that not only boosts the flashlights and lasers effects by 20%, but it also buffs the flashlight's AoE range by the same 20%. Another attention to detail about this color coordination bonus is that the bonus boost also applies to attachments with built-in lasers and/or flashlights like the Mars Sight, AMT Terminator, Yellow Laser, and Electra 5x. Although with this in mind, the yellow laser would be especially powerful as its rotational recoil reducing effects would be greatly heightened, alongside having a built-in flashlight, meaning if you combine the yellow laser with the yellow flashlight, you would have two separate flashlight effects boosted by the 20% at once, alongside having the boosted yellow laser's recoil reducing effects active as well. And with all of that said, those are my suggestions on how to not only make flashlights useful, but also how to potentially rework flashlights and the effect they have on gameplay. But let me know what you guys think of this potential rework down in the comments below. And if you'd like to see this added to the game, be sure to boost this video by leaving a like, and while you're down there, might as well subscribe, right? But until next time, peace.